Hey, hey, wait. You gotta grab these guys off the waiver wire right now. Fantasy basketball managers, you see what it is. I'm out here in these fantasy basketball streets by the daggone train tracks. Delano Banton is one of those players that could really impact the fantasy basketball season, especially with all of these injuries right now. So managers out there who lost players like Şengün, Trae Young, the list just goes on and on. We honestly haven't seen injuries like this before in fantasy. At least for me, I haven't. It almost feels like the daggone COVID year when it was so many, like people would sneeze and the next thing you know, be like out for 2 weeks, like those kind of situations, right? But with Delano Banton, I had the chance to watch and cover one of his games, right? And the young man is really about his business. He actually started the last 4 games for Portland, and you gotta think about it like this. The Blazers have already had an opportunity to see what Scoot Henderson can do. Now they want to see what Delano Banton can do. If I had to kind of roll my dice, not saying which one I would look at in Dynasty, not saying which one I think is the best out of Scoot and Banton, but in terms of the silly season, the injury season, like a team that has nothing to play for, it might be worth noting that a player like Banton might get the run just so the Blazers can test drive him. Whether you are sitting there trying to sneak into the playoffs or if your playoffs already started, if you have OG and Anobi on your team, this is gonna be a great look for you. Now we know that Julius Randle has been banged up. Jalen Brunson has been banged up as well. Any way you look at it, there's just tons of opportunity for a player like OG and Anobi to take on a whole nother level of a role in the New York Knicks system. Now, I know what you're thinking. You probably traded him away or maybe you even dropped him. If you're one of those people who actually picked him up off of waivers because somebody panicked, good for you. But if you were patient, which I know you were, you are about to reap the benefits. OG and Anobi is gonna be that dude down the stretch. We always talk about shutdown candidates when we're doing fantasy, especially at this time of the year when we're getting ready for the fantasy playoffs. They call it silly season, right? When you have players who don't normally play actually playing the biggest roles in your playoff picture. One of the biggest shutdown risks that we're seeing right now is Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen, honestly, the Jazz really have no reason to play this man, and it looks like he's leaning towards the shutdown bus. With that being said, there might be some opportunity here. I know many of you have been picking up people like Keontae George. There's another young man that I talked about on the show recently, but I wanted to talk a little more. It's Bryce Sensabaugh. So Bryce Sensabaugh is a rookie, and honestly, they invested some pretty hefty draft capital to bring him to Utah. With that being said, if they know they're gonna shut down Markkanen, there might be an opportunity where the Jazz really test out what they have with the young fella. And if that happens, he could be silly season magic. Be careful with Naz Reid this week. The Timberwolves only have 2 games, so even though Naz Reid is a great pickup, and I would recommend picking him up if you can, you have to be careful. Now, if you get into your week and you see that you're dominating your opponent or your opponent is kind of slacking, not setting his lineups, whatever the situation is, this could be a great opportunity for you to hold on to Naz Reid, because come next week, it's gonna be on and popping. Top off, boobies is out, hair blowing in the wind. Convertible. We gonna be making videos like you ain't never seen before, just because we wanna make sure you win your fantasy basketball championship. Now, if you have questions for me, all you have to do is drop them questions in the comment section of this episode. You drop the questions here, I answer them here. Now, if you have 2 questions, make sure you start a different thread, because sometimes it just gets a little confusing. Don't forget, play the waivers, set your lineups, and believe in fantasy.